right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Jess, and thank you for tuning into the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. What a great day. This is my favorite day in sports all year long. Chris Mueller's on the other side over the 93.7 The Fan Cam. I heard you guys ranking your favorite sports days. To me, this weekend is the greatest sporting event all year. I put it ahead of the Super Bowl, Thanksgiving, whatever you want to put in there. This is, I think, the best sporting event all year.
Today and tomorrow are certainly the two best days, I think, on the sports calendar because the Super Bowl can be a dud a la Niners 55, Broncos 10 or something to that effect, although we've had a pretty good run of them by and large lately. But the great beauty of the NCAA tournament is you're either guaranteed on days 1 and 2 combined to get either upsets, great games, or oftentimes both. Did anybody have Oakland beating Kentucky and some random guy no one's ever heard of with my hairline on Oakland hitting 10 threes? No, they did not. And that's to say nothing of what Duquesne did to pretty much get the day started, which was beat BYU. I think these are the two best days of the sports calendar. And so far, day number 1 this time around has richly delivered already. Yeah,
you can pretty much rip up my bracket because I had Kentucky going far. Anyways, the big story for us around here is Duquesne today. I actually picked them to go to the Sweet 16. I like the way they're playing. It kind of reminds me of that Pitt team back in the day. They played defense first. And if they can get hot offensively, this is a dangerous team, and they showed that today.
I think that the getting hot offensively part is what's very difficult for them. They are good on defense. I had them winning this game. I'll give myself credit for having them beating BYU in my bracket. I'll also just discredit myself by saying I had Kentucky in the national championship game, but let's not talk about that anymore. Duquesne's problem is they were the more athletic team, actually, against BYU. Most of BYU's offense came out of set plays and kind of running their stuff. They couldn't really create or improvise, and that's just death against a team as good on defense as Duquesne. Problem is, though, Richie, Illinois is a completely different animal. They have one of the best pure scorers in the country, and they are a very talented team. It would take this reeks of a game now for Duquesne, where I think they have to try to play it in 4-minute chunks like you hear about underdogs needing to do all the time. They really have to try to make it into, what would it be, 8 or 10 4-minute games, and just try to keep winning little by little.
Yeah, they can't get out to a slow start, that's for sure. They got to do what they've done the last couple games. The problem with a team like Illinois, if they come back on you, I don't think they're letting up. I don't know if Duquesne can respond like they did in the A-10 championship, like they did today when the game was tied. That's what's impressive the most about this Duquesne team. You usually see underdogs, when you get to that point, you have a huge lead, then all of a sudden the game's tied, they fold. This team doesn't.
Well, it's rare to see a team that's a double-digit seed like Duquesne be such a defensively stringent team and be so stingy is what I meant to say there, a defensively stingy team, and be so tough to score against. Usually you think of a Cinderella or a double-digit seed making a run, and with very few exceptions, Richie, their team's more like Oakland, where there might be 1 or 2 really elite players and then a guy who gets red hot shooting the ball. But Duquesne's formula is much more, you know, people say like those old Pitt teams, you said it, it's more like a power conference team that wants to lock you down, or a great Michigan State team or a Wisconsin team. They're not as physically gifted as those squads are, but their basic philosophy is the same. The real story against Illinois is going to be very simple. Does Duquesne hit enough three-pointers, I think especially early, as you said, to keep the game within shouting distance at halftime? Because at that point, then you start to plant a seed of doubt. But I would offer as a cautionary tale the fact that Morehead State was, I think, up 45-44, and then you basically blinked and Illinois was up by 20. That's what they're capable of.
Yeah, you know what I want to see now? I want to see the city game come back. I know this is Pitt doesn't want to play it, but the way Duquesne's playing, I think it would give the city some excitement. A good team like Duquesne, I think they're going to keep it going there for a little while. If they get the right coach that would replace Dambrot, which I think they will, it'll probably be the assistant guy, that LeBron's boy.
Drew Joyce.
Yeah.
Yeah, Drew Joyce the third. I mean, you're going to have a guy who I think now they're very comfortable with, assuming he gets the job. We know LeBron is a big Dambrot fan. We know he's an even bigger Drew Joyce fan. I think they can enter a little mini golden age here. I really do. I don't think it's something worth just completely tossing off to the side that LeBron is a big fan of both their current head coach and their likely future one. I think that helps them. It definitely doesn't hurt them. And I would love to see the City game come back too, although, man, you watched Duquesne play in the A-10 tournament and earlier today. In a sense, you can wonder why, or you can understand why Pitt, wouldn't want anything to do with them. I mean, they turn games into rock fights, and those are dangerous for almost any caliber of opponent.
But I think it's different now, Chris. I mean, I do think that game could come back. The reason Pitt didn't want to play Duquesne years ago is because Jeff Capel's job was on the line. You don't want to lose to a team that you're supposed to win. Now it's a little bit different. I mean, Capel's had 2 years of success. I think Pitt is, in a good position right now. I think you would hope that they would talk again and try to get this game back.
Then play the game. Pretty simple. Play the game.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to play the game, and we're going to also take your phone calls, 412-575-2600. Coming up next, stay right there. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. So GMC tweet of the night, LeBron James. Talking about his former assistant coach here, Drew on demand. Let's go Dukes. Duquesne men's basketball. He shout out Keith Dambrot a little earlier today, too. This is Dambrot's last run. He's calling it quits after this tournament. It was actually his first NCAA tournament win here today, and the Duke's first tournament win since, 55 years ago. So it's been a long time. By the way, 11 seeds are having success. Duquesne, Oregon. It looks like NC State has a shot in this one, up 3 over Texas Tech right now.
I told Pomp this earlier in the week, and I didn't follow my own advice. Well, I did with Duquesne, but I didn't with South Carolina over Oregon. That was a dumb pick. I do have NC State winning. The last 7 tournaments entering this one, so 28 total games between 11s and 6s in that time. The 11 seeds, Richie, are 15 and 13 now. I think with 2 more wins on the way, they're 17 and 13. That is a bizarre little statistical anomaly. 11-6 is the new 12-5 upset, and those 11 seeds are having more than a good time in that situation. Yeah,
not only are they winning games, they're actually better than the 6 seed over, would you say, since 2018?
The last seven tournaments prior to this one, which obviously there wasn't one in 2020. They've just had a lot of success. I do have a theory, by the way, that sometimes you get those 11 seeds in the first 4, and then they're already a little bit sharpened and battle-hardened. Sometimes it's a mid-major that's a little bit overlooked. I do think it's kind of a perfect storm, like the teams that you can get playing on that seed line actually being really, really good. In fact, UCLA a couple years ago, I believe, was either a 10 or an 11 seed. I mean, you'll occasionally get like a power conference school like an NC State or an Oregon that drops into that seed range, and then you never know what's going to happen with teams like that because they've got the basic talent to be really interesting. What's maybe more quickly here, Richie, what's maybe more interesting is that some of these 6s are so disappointing. And the other thing about Duquesne's win, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, BYU, and I'm not making light of this at all, this is a serious thing, the Mormon faith, they don't want to play on Sunday. They try to avoid it whenever possible. And in this particular instance, in this tournament, my understanding is they were actually rated as a 5 seed and rated as one of the better ones. But in order to accommodate them, they had to become a 6 seed so that they could play the Thursday-Saturday slate. And they might be regretting that now with the way Duquesne was able to handle them.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring that up. When I was at Duquesne and I was talking to Keith Dambrot and a couple of the guys there, they were saying that BYU was supposed to be a 5 seed and Duquesne was supposed to be a 12 seed. So they kind of still kept that matchup together. So that's the big rumor that was going around. And also, I heard another rumor.
Bad for BYU.
Yeah, and I heard another rumor. If Duquesne would have lost the A-10 game, they would have been matched up with Pitt in the NIT tournament, a 1 versus an 8. So that would have been a good matchup. I don't know if Pitt probably still would have said, no, we're not going to play in it. But they would have got a lot more pushback if they were taking on Duquesne. All right, let's go back out to the phone lines. We got Bob out in Dayton. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. Long time, first time on all that.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have a general sports question. I'm 63, old enough to remember all the championships from Dan Marino that came through this town, Pittsburgh, and I just wondered your knowledge and considerable professional opinion on the next championship team to bring a trophy to this town. And why or why not?
You know what? That's a good question. I always think about this, Chris. I don't even know. It's not going to be the Penguins. It's either between the Steelers and the Pirates, and I don't know. History tells me don't have faith in the Pirates, so it would have to be the Steelers, because I don't think Pitt basketball can win one, and I don't think Pitt football, I think they're a long way off from winning one.
Well, I think you can. I'll say this little aside about Pitt basketball. If Carrington and Lowe come back with the guard play that they should have, and that's a big if, but we know that they're going to get at least one big man back from injury. I know Federico entered the transfer portal or declared his intention to earlier today, so that's something to keep an eye on. But you catch lightning in a bottle with elite guard play in the NCAA tournament. I know that it's still a long shot, but we've seen teams with far less pedigree than Pitt make pretty deep runs. So I wouldn't completely discount them. It's very much a crapshoot, but when you have guards who can take over a game in the NCAA tournament, and with Carrington, they'd absolutely have that next year, I don't think you can be dismissed very easily. As to how I answer the rest of that question, though, I'm in agreement with you, actually, that the Penguins just feel like a very long way off. The Pirates, we talked to Derek Shelton on the show briefly today, Richie, and one of the things he said was he felt like, he had an offense here. He was excited about actually it was John Wayner, excuse me. I don't want to put words in Shelton's mouth. Wayner said to us that he felt that this team had pitching questions, yes, but maybe the best offense of Derek Shelton's tenure. And while I'd be tempted to maybe say, hey, baseball's a crapshoot too, look at the Diamondbacks, 84-win team, got to the World Series, got within 3 wins of winning it, it's still such a crucible over the course of that season. So you know what I'm going to say? Cop-out answer. Easiest sport to do it because you could maybe win 9 games, get in, and get on a run. I still think the Steelers have the best chance to be next because it's such a grueling road in baseball, and it is so geared against the smaller market teams. Yeah,
the Steelers right now have a good defense. You don't know what they have at quarterback. It's kind of a question mark, but if they have anything, this is a team that could make a run. And then I'd probably agree with you. It's either the Pirates or Pitt basketball that would be second, I think, in my opinion. Let's go out to Steve in Dormont. How you doing, Steve?
What's up, Richie? How are you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for calling.
So, first thing I want to say is, I have an 8-month-old, and he absolutely loves the first song before break. I mean, he loves it. But after that, so please try to keep it on. But after that, so me and my one buddy, we got into football like 25 years ago before Ben came around, and we just always thought, man, Steelers are so good. If they could just get a bleeping quarterback, they'd be great. And then Ben came, and then I fear now they're back in purgatory again for another 20 years. And, Russ is great.
Well, how bad was purgatory, though? Like, how bad was the Bradshaw to Ben 21 years of purgatory? I keep hearing people say that, yet they made multiple appearances in AFC championship games, got to a Super Bowl. They were hosting AFC title games that they didn't even win. One of my little pet peeves as a Steelers fan and as a person who gets paid, is lucky enough to get paid to talk about this, is people act like the period between Bradshaw and Ben was this barren wasteland where you were basically the Cleveland Browns every single year, and that's just not the truth. The Steelers were a highly competitive team that, yes, did not have an elite quarterback, but to make it seem like they were slogging through every season in misery is just a gross distortion of what actually happened.
Neil O'Donnell took him to the Super Bowl. Also, I would say, and I think we could debate this, that Cordell Stewart might have been the 3rd best quarterback in franchise history.
He is, and he was before his time. And if Cordell Stewart was coming out of college right now with his skill set and the coaching he probably would have received and the way, like, just his talents would have been utilized differently, the guy's probably a top 10 pick with the athletic ability and the overall arm strength. As to the second part of this, Richie, very quickly, are they entering 20 years in the quote-unquote wilderness? I'm not so sure. I mean, it can turn around. You have Russell Wilson, who's probably a borderline Hall of Famer at worst already. He gets into a run-heavy, play-action offense like Smith wants to run here. I think you could see a little bit of a revitalization there. And then with Justin Fields, the physical gifts are off the charts. I mean, they're comparable to Ben as being a big guy. He's an extremely fast guy. I think they have two, especially in Fields' case, lottery ticket type of players that actually could bring them some real success. Not saying they will, but I think you bet on a high ceiling like Fields and a guy with past pedigree, like Wilson, you could do a lot worse than that.
Their quarterback room is a lot better than it was last year. I'd much rather have Wilson and Fields instead of Pickett and Rudolph or Trubisky, whoever else you want to throw in there. Let's go to Will, McKees Rocks. How you doing, Will?
Hey, good evening, guys. How are you tonight?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks for taking my call as always, guys. I really appreciate it. I wanted to talk Pirates with you if I could, please.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, with Dari Moretta being having Tommy John surgery now, do you think the Pirates will find his replacement via free agency or someone they already have or the waiver wire?
All right. Thanks a lot, Will. What do you think, Chris? We don't have a lot of time here.
I mean, Big Bank, it sucks because I enjoyed watching him pitch, but that's somebody internally, they're going to fill that spot. I mean, he was going to be a bullpen arm. I'm sure they liked what he brought to the table, but that's going to be something you fill internally, I would think.
Yeah, I want to see the Pirates get another starter. That's where I'm worried about right now, their starting pitching, especially if they're not bringing Skeens up early, which I don't think they will until at least June, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to that's the real question. If you think like John Wayner does that they have some thump all over the lineup and that they're going to have a pretty good offense, the million-dollar question is, does the pitching hold up long enough for reinforcements to arrive? And I think nobody really knows the answer to that.
All right, we got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Big story today, Duquesne moves on. Hey, Chris, so what do you think about tomorrow? Any games stand out that you are looking forward to, like maybe TCU, the Clemson-New Mexico game? Is there anyone that you're really interested in?
It's funny that you mentioned specifically Clemson, New Mexico, because I have New Mexico, the Lobos, all the way to the Elite Eight. And since Kentucky was in my national title game and my bracket's already busted, I might as well root for them. Do you want to know a game I'm genuinely curious to watch? Purdue and Grambling. Because I know that Purdue tried to prepare itself better for a smaller, athletic, swarming team after what happened to them against FDU. I watched Grambling, Richie. They look like a taller, slightly taller, and better version of FDU. Look out, Purdue. Woo!
Give me a Duquesne score for Saturday. Haven't seen a time of the game yet. That'll be posted probably after these games tonight. But what do you think?
Illinois 74, Duquesne 63. I just think the ride ends against a too talented team that's going to speed them up when they don't want to speed up.
I'm on the Dukes bandwagon. I'm saying they're in the Sweet 16. Thanks a lot, Chris. See you next week. Hopefully we'll see you guys over on KDKA News whenever these games are finished tonight. See you then.